yada. Hey, welcome to an impromptu version of CHAPS Darkside, episode 10. Podcast simul, using our new H2 we picked up, a really good deal. So, and I'm just checking to see that it still works. So hopefully it does. We've got an interesting interview coming up with Cody Ray Desbians and Satori Haas this weekend, but I thought we'd do kind of an impromptu. We were in the car and we were discussing do's and don'ts, kind of like doing a 101 for our own investigators, but do's and don'ts, and we kind of came up with the horror stories of CHAPS. Misfires. Not it was a horror story, sometimes they're just a misfire. I'm thinking about some of them, kind of like for clients too, if you're going to have somebody in your house, what do and don't. Think of some of the smaller ones, you know, smaller misfires we've had, you know, like don't not clean your house.
Yes. Yes.
I can't. This is probably, would you arguably say that the biggest horror story we run into?
Yeah.
Like, cause we've had houses where there's cat boxes, we have a cat, with, you know, crap sprayed up the side of the wall. Yuck. We've done houses where you go in and there's nothing but beer bottles and pizza boxes everywhere. Kind of gross. Mm-hmm. We did that house in Pembroke where they had actually told us to do the basement. This was like a triple horror story because they told us to do the basement. They were upstairs getting high and jamming. They had like 11 acoustic guitars going. This was very early in the day, so you know these were cases that, well, let's just say we were just vying for cases. And we were down in the basement and we were getting sick, smell ammonia, dark basement. And the floor was crunchy. That probably should have been an indicator something was normal. So we turned on the light and realized that they had taken bags of kitty litter all over their, like shag carpet too, all over their basement. And that was, the whole basement was the cat's litter box. They had like 4 cats. So we left that investigation. I think we had the Trenton P house.
Yeah, that house was...
You remember the details on that?
Well, the bedrooms just had mattresses on the floor with no blankets or sheets on them, but like covered in pee stain, and the smell was so bad that I was like passing out. I had never, ever, ever smelled a house that bad before.
She had like rabbits and cats, like numerous of both. So I guess she had trained them to use the beds as pee pads.
We're just not trained them at all.
Which you know, you got to think if you're a client, you're going to bring a team in that's going to, at their own expense and time, come out and help you out. I think we were in and out of that investigation in 15 minutes.
Yeah, the smell was just overwhelming.
Yeah, there was no possible reason we could handle that case. I'm thinking about some of the horror stories. You know, when you own your claims, we use that term in paranormal, owning your evidence. Like you're overly invested in your house being haunted. I know a small one was, we did an investigation way back in the beginning, and the basement door kept on opening. But we had actually determined and found out that the latch was put on upside down. But boy, she was upset. She was cheesed off like you wouldn't believe. We've had investigations where we have come back to them and said, there's nothing much here, and they want to take us to court over it. I don't understand that. I mean, you know, it's just an opinion.
Yeah, if we don't get anything, we're not saying your house isn't or is haunted, we're saying we didn't get anything.
Yeah. Probably another one would be like when we investigated that hotel, they wanted us to come down. Reminding me, it was what, a 4-hour drive to get there through a snowstorm. And there was going to be no residents in the hotel that night. And they told everybody in the town. So the bar was full. Of course, we came into the, you know, and everybody in the bar just went on about it. They closed the bar about 3:30 in the morning. Okay, fine. We started investigating at 3:30 in the morning. Actually thought we had some stuff until one of our DVR cameras actually caught somebody that was staying at the hotel
Playing with our equipment, like messing around with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all evidence we got that night was shamu, done, gone.
How about just making sure that everybody that's lives in your household is on board with an investigation?
Oh yeah.
Like, pretty uncomfortable to show up at an investigation and some of the residents aren't happy that you're there.
Not happy. She began throwing things around the house.
Yeah, yeah.
She was so mad. And the husband was still saying, you know, you guys could stay overnight.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
made it
think
very
so.
uncomfortable. We left in the middle of a snowstorm because, yeah, she was throwing stuff around the house, quite upset that we were there.
We did one investigation. Wear clothes. We did one investigation where a gentleman had see-through boxers on. And it was weird because it was like it was a different kind of investigation. I know we were in the basement. And he had one of those basement doors. You know, well, you know the door that like it kind of goes down into the basement, like a trap door. And we're down in the basement. And I look up and I've got this guy up there with sheer boxers on. And he's sucking on a lollipop, staring at us. That was like something out of a Stephen King book.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Or where we had a gentleman set up an investigation, and when we arrived, it was actually his parents' home, and they knew nothing of us coming.
Oh yeah, and they were trying to sell their house.
Yeah, so they had no idea we were coming, but the father was like, no, if my son set this up, then you need to do it. So we went in, and the mother of the gentleman who had set up the investigation, due to her religion or whatever, had to keep her face hidden. So the entire time we were there, she was hidden under a blanket. Like, I felt absolutely horrible, but the father insisted that, you know, if his son arranged this, that we go ahead and do the investigation. That was really uncomfortable. Like, I really,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that was uncomfortable. We were also in and out of that one pretty quick.
Yeah, well, you know, you had this poor woman who's having to hide in her own home, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Horror stories like that is something else. I'm just thinking more. Ones that go flashbang. Like, this doesn't just relate to people's houses. This can relate to commercial locations.
Yes.
There's lots of commercial locations that we drive a day to get to. You've paid so much to do it. It seems that the price had changed since we booked it. And then we had to come up with another $800 just to be able to do it. And then they tried to charge the credit card of the person that booked it again. Oh, this was after we went to the gift shop.
Yeah.
We're not going to say where that is. I'm not going to get a libel case on this. But it does happen. All these locations aren't always so upfront with things. Research well where you're going to go. And, you know, keep in mind the amount of money you're spending versus the amount of people that are with you versus what you're going to get out of it. Generally, the bigger the claims, really the less it is. The best investigations we've ever done generally don't overstate the claims, or you're just interested in going. You think, oh, there was that one house. This one was a record book one for us because we had to get the courts involved and all kinds of stuff. Let's just give you the doo-wop on it. I mean, the family had been being followed by a pack of druids, and sacrifices were going on. Let me think. We went to their home, which was covered in mold. Remember all the mold?
Yeah.
Oh my God, the mold was everywhere. covered in mold. Both the parents were dressed to the gills in Gothic. I would expect them to be reenactors in one of those SCA organizations. Like they look like they were straight out of the 1600s. Both their daughters, whom we spoke to privately, 14, also dressed that way. Very, very, very enticed by what's going on. Very, very involved with hallucinogenic drugs. And we go down, the one brother was scared to leave his room. They kept him in his room. We opened the door, he freaked out like it was weird. And then another brother, like we were down in the basement. In the basement, I mean, there was porn lining all the walls, thousands upon thousands of magazines and tapes, hundreds of pieces of drug paraphernalia everywhere. Yeah. I don't. This was a horror story of a different kind of nature, like something where obviously you have to make calls to the right departments, which we did. And you could see that there was definitely a parental-child, like, there was shit going on there that was well beyond what we were doing. That was a horror story. That was an education. Sometimes the horror stories aren't like bad on us; they're just bad for us. Well, we did a museum, huge, very high profile. But when we got there, realized that the rules had changed. We were going to be surrounded by security. No power was going down. All the displays.
Yeah, but they were not shutting the sound effects off on them.
Do you know what it's like trying to do an EVP section next to a screaming T-Rex? Oh my God. So, of course, that was just, it became a self-interest investigation, right?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, it's a cool place to do, but, no evidence. Guess we're at $1,000. So there's lots of horror stories where you travel to an investigation. You get there and they're not there. We've had a couple no-shows. Those are good. Always interested in doing those. Travel horror stories when we stay. The investigation's great, but the hotel we stay in is disgusting. I can remember going to Cornwall and we stayed in that hotel where the only way we could get there was the fire escape, and the fire escape was banging up and down the ground as we climbed up it in the winter. And Dan and Kathy pulled over their top sheet, and there was a body-sized blood stain on the sheets.
And some of our investigators had no sheets or blankets.
No sheets, roll-away cots. This was...
Yeah, and on the website it looked like a very nice hotel.
Always look into your hotels, guys. I remember the hotel we went and stayed in West Virginia, second time. That was where the oil workers were down there, and the oil workers, with luck, kind of like starting to party with us, but at the very beginning it looked like we were going to have a big Dukes of Hazzard war. That was very unnerving. Sometimes we're the ones that make the error. I know when we were down by Fort Knox, we were doing Waverly, and we were drinking. Hey, we were having a couple drinks in the parking lot, and we realized that it was a dry county. Never did get the cops calling us. You ever the cop? Oh, we have. We have. Do you remember the investigation that the realtor sent us to? The empty house? The barf house.
Yes.
Yeah, the barf house. The house, it smelled like puke. And ironically enough, the real estate agent was like, this place has been on the market for 6 months. But it smells like vomit.
Yeah.
And all the furniture
needs to be cleaned.
It needs to be cleaned. And all the furniture is still 50 years old in here, and it's packed. And there was a bed that a lady had died on. There was still the vomit there. But anyway, all the neighbors were really, really, really picky. Of course, he was like, let's keep this low profile. Okay, but I'm leaving. He said, no, because remember during the investigation, all of a sudden, we look at the windows, and there's neighbors with their faces looking in the front windows.
Yeah.
And then we saw a police car coming, and it was like, okay, it's time to pack this up. Got a couple of those happening. Any other horror stories over the years you can think of? I mean, we've done a lot of investigations.
I don't know, I think a lot of them are kind of around the same thing, like,
Dirt.
yeah.
It's basically, if it's commercial, it's a location that is well beyond its claims. And if it's home, it's the conditions you're investigating in. I can think of a couple of investigations where they were nicely toasted. A couple of them were okay. Like a couple of investigations where they had a couple drinks. That was okay. They might have just ended up being funny. You know, we've done a few investigations where we've actually had a couple drinks with them. Some of those stand out in memory. I can recall investigating a restaurant where the owner got really pissed to the gills and got all of their friends pissed to the gills, and they were all there. And I eventually kind of said, you know, we're going to wrap this up because there people were starting to play with our equipment. Horror story. Horror story. Public at a theater, a drunk person falling down the concrete steps.
Oh my goodness, yes.
During
One of the attendees of the, and they weren't drinking at the event, they had got drunk before they came to our event, because we don't have alcohol at our events.
fell down 2 flighs of stairs before they got
that
to.
was horrible.
Nothing like starting off your 101 public with ambulance attendants. Anything else that sticks out? I knew it was going to be a short off the brief, but I think maybe what this is just, you know, if you're going to have people into your home, clean it.
It's not time to invite your friends over for a party.
Yeah.
Save your party for the next night.
Whether you agree with weed or not, also not time.
Yeah.
It's just not time. It's time to just be quiet, sit in the corner, participate when asked to, but clean your home. You know, unfortunately, a lot of our horror stories also revolve around, I don't have good luck with mediums, but generally mediums been in there and said that there's a portal to hell somewhere in the house. Don't get mad at us when we don't come back with results that you think is happening. If you already know your house is haunted and you're not looking for anybody to make any rational decisions about it or opinions, probably the best thing you should do is just bring in a medium and they can do it for you if that's what you think. Because most of our horror stories really stem from either environmental conditions or another team or medium being in there ahead of time. So, anyway, thanks for giving us 10 minutes. I just wanted to kind of check these equipment because these are the ones I'm going to be using. These are the ones. These? They are? These pieces of equipment? Yeah, I said that right?
Fine.
No, but I said these equipment.
Okay, well, close enough.
All right, well, these are the pieces of equipment I'll be using for the next podcast. And I haven't used this particular unit yet, so I don't know what kind of quality it comes with. So we're having our Tim Hortons, and we're having a safe COVID day. Went to the dog park. Got my cat. My dog's laying on the ground. He's been a good boy. Drinking our coffee. Have a good day.
You've been accomplished getting a night out of this, Tessie.